Okay, so I'm going to start with two searching methods today, and maybe if we get time, I'll do the first sorting method. Okay, so the first method that we are going to learn is maybe you have learned this in your first year, I'm not sure, but the first method that you're going to study is linear search. So we are starting with searching methods. And under searching methods, the first one that you're going to study is linear search. So you can just note down if you want the name of the method, linear search. So basically when we are doing searching or sorting, we are going to always have our data in an array. Okay. Most of the times in all our examples, the data will be in an array. But the data could have been also in a linked list. It could have been in a tree or anywhere. Okay. So although we are going to study examples in an array, it does not mean the data cannot be stored in the form of a linked list. We have studied different kinds of linked lists. Okay. So please remember that. So in linear search, basically, like we are going to search for a given element. So if you are given some set of numbers, okay, then you're going to search for an element, whether it's present in that array or it's not present in that array. If it's present in that array, then we declare the position at which it is found. Okay. So if it is present, then we say that it is found at so and so index or position. And if it is, you scan the entire array and you don't find it, then you will say that the element that you are searching is not found in the array. So that's the basic aim of a searching method, searching for that element, and if it is found, declaring the position of that element, and if it is not found, then saying that element is not present. Okay. So today's first method is linear search. So assume that these are the numbers that have been given. Okay. This is the array, and in this array we are going to search for the value and the value that is wanted. So these are your values that are there in the array from 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50, 5 values. And we are calling the element to be searched as key. Okay. It is, you need not call it key, you can call it any variable name, but we are calling it as a key. Okay. And we want to search for this value 30. We want to check whether 30 is present in the array or it's not present. Like you can already see visually, see 30 is there in the array. So how does linear search work? Okay. So basically in step 1, you start comparing your 30, this 30 that you want to search, with the first element of the array. Compare 30 with the first element. If after comparison you get that both the values are equal, then you will say element 30 found at position 1. Okay. Remember, I'm saying position 1. If you're saying index, then it is index 0. So you can say position 1. Okay. Because a common person will not understand meaning of index. That only computer engineers who know arrays understand that these are the indexes. So you could say that 30 is found at position 1. If suppose the result of both this was equal. But now you can see that when you compare, here the value is 10 and the key is 30. So it is not equal. So what we will do, we will take our key and go to the second element for comparison. So in the second step, we will compare 30 with the second element in the array. So you can see here in the second step, I'm comparing the key with the second element. When I compare 30 with 20, again you can see the result is not equal. Both the elements are not equal. So again I will move to the next element. So every time when the result is not equal after comparison, we increment the search value, we increment the index and we move to the next index and we compare that element with the key. So now since this was not equal, 20 is not equal to 30, I go to the next element in the next step and I do the comparison. When I come to the third step here, I compare 30 with 30 and it is equal. So I will declare that element is found at position 3, or I will say element found at index 2. Okay. So linear search means you start searching one element at a time, and you start, if it's not equal, you increment your search to the next index. If it is not equal, increment your search, go to the next index and keep searching like that. Okay, until you find the element, or maybe when you finish all the comparisons you may not find the element. Okay, so that is the way your linear search works. So any questions about this, how it works as of now? Basically this is it, this is your linear search. So if I was searching for 30, since it is present in the third position, I would finish it in 3 steps. And in the exams, if you are given this problem, this is the way you have to solve. You need not highlight and all like this. You can just write here, compare 30 with 10, not equal. So move to the next element. So any doubts here about this method? Anyone? Okay, if there are no doubts, can you tell me what's the advantage of this method and what is the disadvantage of this method from what I just explained? You can type in the chat if you want. What you find is the advantage and what is the disadvantage? No, you need not sort the data. You did not sort the data. In this case, it was sorted, but you did not sort the data. Correct. Correct. Ria and Mohandas have already replied the correct answer. Disadvantage. That's the disadvantage. So suppose you were having, yes, Yash also has written it. So suppose you were having, instead of 5 elements, you were having a million elements. Okay. Suppose you were having a million elements, and the value that you're searching was at the millionth place. So you would have to do so many comparisons. Means you would have to actually do million comparisons till you get the answer. Okay. So that's the disadvantage. In the worst case, you have to do all the comparisons. So suppose I was searching for 50, I would have to do 5 comparisons, and 5 is the size of my array. So whatever is the size of your array, that many number of comparisons you would have to do. Suppose the value you are searching is for at the last position. That is the disadvantage. What's the advantage? Yeah, all of you have written the disadvantage correctly. So what's the advantage of this method? The students' advantage. Was it easy for you to understand, difficult for you to understand? Yes. Kaiser, yes, it's easy to implement. Okay, it's easy to implement. Kaiser, whether it's faster or no, it depends on where is the position of that element. If it's at the first position, then you can say it is fast. So that is the best case scenario. Okay, and it is the last place, then it is the worst case scenario. So it depends on where you are searching for the element. So with respect to that, that is one another important thing that I should tell you. I think now in all these methods, you will never have like a common way of measuring them. So that you will measure them always in the terms of best case and worst case. Okay. For example, in linear searching, if I was searching for 10 in this example, I was searching for 10, I would find 10 in one comparison. That would be the best case. And if I was searching for 50, I would need 5 comparisons, which is the worst case because the size of the array is 5. So always you are going to describe searching and sorting algorithms in terms of best case and worst case. Okay. So that is the way you're going to compare these algorithms. Otherwise, you can't compare them mostly because they all have different ways of being implemented. Okay. So, if you want to compare them, you have to compare them in terms of best case and worst case. So yeah, basically what I will want you all to do is for your own self, all the searching and sorting algorithms, I'll be explaining you all the methods. But you need to find out these advantages and disadvantages of all these methods. Okay. And you need to write programs for all these methods. Now some of these algorithms are there as practicals for you. Okay. But besides the ones that are there for practicals, the other ones also may come for exams in semester. So if you have your textbook, suppose you have found a soft copy of the textbook online, or you have borrowed it from the library, and all the algorithms and the programs are there on the textbook. Okay, uh, you need not refer to the textbook that is there on your syllabus only. You can refer to any textbook. The program means the concept is the same. Only the programs may differ from one author to another author. You can refer to any programs that you find useful. Okay. And one more thing that I want to tell is based on this topic only, remember that I don't know how many of you know to drive a car. If you have gone anytime to driving school, for a car driving school, I'm saying, you know that they teach you all those things, basics. Okay. But they don't teach you how to go from one state to another. Like when you're going from, they just teach you the basics to get the driving license. They teach you what is the clutch, what is the brake, what is the accelerator, how to start the car, and all those things, and how to go left, right, and all those things, basics. But they don't teach you how to cross the ghats. For example, you want to go from Goa to Karnataka, the ghats. You, based on what you have learned in your driving, you're supposed to implement it on the ghats, right? So that is the same thing we are doing here as teachers. Okay. In data structures, I'm teaching you all the topics that are there in your syllabus. But if you want to become expert, you need to practice on your own. So the programs that I'm doing, those are not the only programs that can be done. You can search programs on linked list. There will be so many different types of programs on linked list. You need to study all these types. Okay. If you want to become an expert, if you're not interested, you just want to pass the exam and all, then this much is enough for you, what is being done. But if you want to become an expert, and this subject is important in persistent in future when you're studying, you want a job in persistent, though many of you will be interested in getting a job in persistent because they want to stay in Goa and they don't want to go outside Goa, then this subject is very important. Okay. And you need to practice on your own because as you can see, we don't waste a single minute, but we don't get enough time to do a lot of things. Okay. And most of my lectures go beyond 1 hour. It is not like I finish in 1 hour. So on your own, you need to practice a lot. Okay. So those of you who are not interested in programming, okay, you're just interested in passing the subject, so that's fine. Maybe you're interested in websites or something else in computer engineering. So those of you who are interested in getting into persistent, you need to study this subject thoroughly. So you need to practice, search for programs on linked list, tags, queues. There's so many programs that are there on, so many websites are there, so many YouTube channels are there. You need to look at them and study all those different kinds of programs and prepare yourselves. Okay. So yeah, this was just a small tip for you. So if I think all have understood this linear search, let's go to the second type of searching method. Because of the disadvantage of this linear search, okay, the disadvantage of this linear search is like how we all have all said here. Worst case scenario, if the element is at the last index, then you have to do all the comparisons. Okay. So because of that, they came up with another method known as binary search. So they came up with another method known as binary search. So basically in binary search, okay, you can just note down this algorithm if you want to take a screenshot or something like that. Okay, so basically in binary search, I'll tell you the method first, then we'll see how to utilize this algorithm. So again, you'll be given array. Okay, now in binary search, okay, and make a note in your books. In binary search, for binary search to work properly, the array elements has to be sorted. Okay, please note what I'm saying. For this method to work, you have to input the numbers in sorted order. If we don't put the numbers in sorted order, this algorithm will not work the way it has been intended to work. Okay, and maybe at the end of the after I finish explaining, you will understand why the numbers have to be in sorted order and why it will not work if it is not in sorted order. So that's why I have taken here one array, and you can see that it is in sorted order. So whenever you're writing a program for this, for binary search, you can always write a program. You can input the elements in sorted order, or you could write one functions to take the input in any order and then sort it and then start with binary search. It's up to you. Okay. Normally, the students directly input the numbers in sorted order because it's easier to do it like that. Okay. So assuming that these are the numbers to be given to you, and you're searching for 60, the key that the element that you're searching is 60. I can see that 60 is present at position 6 or index 5. Okay, so what your binary search does is, first it starts by taking a midpoint of this array, the original array. Okay, it starts by taking a midpoint. So to take a midpoint, it uses some variables like it has been shown here. Like it is shown here. So we will initialize these variables like L will be set to the lowermost index, H will be set to the highest index. So value of L will be 0, value of H will be 9. Okay. Then you're going to set this variable position equal to -1. Okay. Initially this will be set like that. So L will be 0, H will be 9, and position will be -1. Okay. So here you can see I've highlighted that L is 0, H is 9, and position I have not shown, but position is equal to -1. Okay. So you're going to then apply this algorithm, all these steps till the value of L is less than or equal to H. We're going to repeat all the below steps below this till the value of L is less than or equal to H. If value of L becomes greater than H, then we will say that element is not found. Okay, I've not written it here, but you can note it down. If value of L becomes greater than H, then you can say that the element that you're searching is not present in the array. Okay, so we start from here. So your first step will be, once you have initialized this L and H values, your first step is to find out the value of M. Value of M is nothing but you take a midpoint. So you take L plus H divided by 2. So when I take this L plus H, 0 plus 9 is 9, divided by 2 is 4.5. But when we will assume that all of these are integer variables. Okay. So since they are integer variables, that 0.5 will be lost, will be truncated, and we will get M as 4. Okay. Clear? So assume that all of these variables are integer variables. So when I get this value of M, then I apply second step. So in the second step I start, there are 3 if statements. Okay, there are 3 if statements. So remember, normally we would have assumed that when there's a if statement like this, that only one statement is included in this. But here, both the statements are included under this if. Okay. Please note, you can put the braces if you want. So you can just put the braces here. Both the statements are included under this if. Okay. So first we check for this a of m. So you assume that this name of this array is say a. Okay. M value is 4. So you check the value of a of 4. So if this array is a and this is 4, a of 4 means 50. So you compare 50 with your key. Okay. If it is equal, check first. If it is equal, then you would have said that you would have given the value of m to position, and you would have said that element is found at this position. Okay. If it was equal, you would have given the value of m to position, and you would have said the element is found at that position. But now you can see when you compare that it is not equal. So you go to the next if statements. Now check here whether this 50 a of m means this 50 is greater than 60. Okay. Is it greater than 50? Sorry, is this true? You will see that this is not true because 50 is not greater than 60. So we come to this if statement. We check whether 50 is less than 60. When we compare, we find that 50 is less than 60. So 50 is less than 60. So in that case, what we will do? We will do this. L value was 0. Now we will change that L to m plus 1. M value is 4. So m plus 1 will become 4 plus 1, 5. So L will become 5. So here you can see L will become 5. H value will not change. H value will remain as it is. Okay. L values become 5. H value will not change. Now the logic for it is, the logic of binary search is, and why we need to take sorted elements is, as you can see here, this is the midpoint. Okay, this is the midpoint. All the elements greater than after the midpoint are greater than this value. You can see here all these values after the midpoint are greater than 50. All values before the midpoint are less than 50. Okay, so basically we take advantage of that fact. So what we do now, we realize that after the first step, this value that we are searching 60 is not going to be found here in this first half. Okay, they are not going to, it's not going to be found in the first half. Why? Because all these values are less than 50, and what we have found out that 60 is greater than 50. So if 60 is greater than 50, it will never be found in this half. It can be only found in this half. Okay. So therefore what we do, we change the area of our search. So first we were searching in this entire area. So we had made L equal to 0, H equal to 9. Now we have decided that our area of search needs to be only this much. Therefore now we need L equal to 5. Therefore using this statement here, we make L equal to 5. So we make it using this L equal to m plus 1. So therefore your search area now only becomes this much. Okay, and that's why I've highlighted this in red to show that these values we are not going to search again. The number of comparisons now reduce. Okay, we are not doing a linear search. So every time what we are doing is we are going to divide the array into two halves. Okay, we are going to divide the array into two halves, and after every division, based on the midpoint of the division, the values on the left side of the midpoint will be less than it. The values on the right side will be greater than the midpoint value. Okay, that's why we need the elements in sorted order. Otherwise, this method will not work. Clear? So till here, have you all understood what I've just said before I proceed? Anyone has any doubts about what I just told you till now? Okay, let's proceed then. So, like I told you, we are going to keep repeating the steps till L is less than or equal to H. So, after executing second step, we come back here and check whether L is less than or equal to H. So, L is 5, H is 9. So, L is less than or equal to H. So, repeat the steps. Find out the value of M. So, when you find out the new value of M, 5 plus 9, 14. 14 divided by 2, 7. So, M value is 7. Okay. Compare now 60 with 88 and check which of these if statements is true. One of these three if statements will be true. When you compare this, it's not equal. Okay, 88 is greater than key. Key is 60. Okay, remember key is 60. 88 is greater than 60. So now, what you come to know? When you come to know that 88 is greater than 60, where your 60 will lie? In this half or this half? Remember, we are not bothered about this now. Okay, we are not going to check this red area. So when we do this midpoint now, we are only searching in this much area. Okay, so when we search in this much area, left of the midpoint is these two elements and right of that midpoint is these two elements. So 60 will fall in one of the two halves. So based on this, we have to define the new area. When you check here, 88 is greater than 60. So therefore, we'll change this. So we'll make H equal to M minus 1. M is 7. So M minus 1 will be 6. Therefore, H will become 6. So you can see here, H is 6. Value of L does not change. Value of L will remain the same. L will remain as 5. So H will become 6. L will remain 5. Okay. So go back here, check this statement. Is L less than or equal to H? Yes. L is 5, H is 6. So it is less than or equal to H. Find out the new midpoint. So now 5 plus 6 divided by 2, you get 5.5. But since it's an integer, you will get 5. So now value of M is 5. Okay. Therefore, I have written here L also is 5, M is also 5. Now you check this. Is this equal? Yes. 60 is equal to 60. They will give M value to position. So position will get value as 5. And you will print that 60 is found at position 5 or position 6, you can say. 60 is found at index 5 or found at position 6. Is it okay? So basically, if you were doing a linear search on this array, how many comparisons you have to do to find 60? You have to do 6 comparisons, correct? I have to do 6 comparisons for linear search. But now in binary search, I've reduced that effort by half. In 3 comparisons, I'm able to find my element. Okay. It always may not reduce by half, but in this case, it has reduced our effort by half. So is it okay? Everyone has understood how this is working? Any questions here? M should be greater than or equal to key. No, these values are this. You can write, see, it means the same thing, Siddesh. You can say key is greater than A of M, or you can say in both the ways. Okay. So when you are programming, you can program in any way that you want. You could have written here key greater than A of M, or you could have written a key less than A of M. Okay.
Yeah, you should have compared for
Then these
equal to
things will
also.
change. Yeah.
Equal to, sir. We have to compare for equal to, no, sir. If the key is equal to the middle, then
It does not change anything here. If when this statement is executed, you will always find that the element is at that position and you will print that position. Okay. I don't know why you don't get confused. Okay, while writing here, I've written little differently, but you just follow this algorithm. Here I could have said 50 is less than 60. Okay, are you getting confused because of this? What I've written here?
Sir, no, sir. Got it, sir.
Huh?
No, sir. Got
What
it,
is
sir.
your doubt? Got it? Ashish, repeat the last step. Which is the last step? This one? Okay, last step from here. So what you will do basically, every time you're going to repeat these steps. Okay, so when you're going to repeat this step, you're going to repeat this step. Okay, so this is your a of m value, a of m. So you check here, a of m means 88. 88 you compare with 60. It's not equal. Okay, we go to the second if statement. Check whether 88 is greater than 60. Okay, is 88 greater than 60? Yes. So in other words, what it means that now this is your search area, this much, and this is your, the yellow part is your midpoint. Okay, so if 88 is greater than 60, 60 will be found in the left half of the array, or 60 will be found in the right half of the array. If 88 is greater than 60, what does it mean? Will 60 be found in the left half, or will 60 will be found in the right half? So obviously you can see from this diagram that 60 will be found in the left half. Okay. So now for the next step, this will be the search area, only this much. Okay. Why? Because here it cannot be found. Here it cannot be found, because this is not 88, already we have found out is greater than this value. And since this is sorted, we know that these values beyond 88 are also greater than 60. We are not going to search here now anymore. And we have done a comparison with 88 here in this step here, in this if here, and we know that this is not equal to this. Now we are going to not even include these three elements in our next step. Okay, if we are not going to include these three elements, we need the new search area. So in the new search area, now there are only two elements that are left. So when you have two elements, okay, we need one L and H value. So L will be the lower index and H will be the higher index. The L value has already been set here. So what we need to set is the H value. The H value we set by using this formula here. H equal to m minus 1. When we set that, I will get H equal to 6 like I've shown here. Okay, so you will get L as 5, H as 6. Once you get this, repeat this as long as this is true. So you will compute the new value of m. You get a value of m as 5. When you get a value of m as 5, you come here. Check this. It will be true. So you will say 60 is found at this position. Is it okay? Yeah, is it okay everyone? Nikhil, you got it? Yeah, any other questions? Any doubts? Okay, everyone? Okay. You can try one for homework. You can try one for homework. Same array you can take. Just note down this array. Note down this array. Search for the value 30. Okay. Search for the value 30 by using binary search. Search for the value 30 by using binary search. Nikhil, did you get it? Okay. Any other questions on these searching methods? So these are the two searching methods that we are going to learn. And there's one more method known as hashing, but hashing I'll do later, maybe after your IT. So let's go over to sorting methods. Okay. So the first sorting method that you're going to learn is bubble sort. Okay. You're going to study bubble sort. So obviously, you know, sorting means you're going to sort the numbers in ascending number order or descending order. In any one of the two orders, you're going to sort. So right now we are going to sort them in ascending order. You're going to sort them in descending order also is the same way, but you will start from the end. Okay, the same method, but you will be starting it from the end. So you can try it out later at home. Once I finish this ascending, you can try it for descending later. Same way it is. Okay, but you will have to start from the last two elements. Now you're given this array, okay, and you want them in sorted order. So when you want them in sorted order, we're going to sort them in ascending order. So that means I want 10 at the first index, 14 at the second, then 27, then 33, and last will be 35. So basically, this is the sorted array. I want this as the output. Okay. So I start with my first iteration. So depending on the number of values that you have in your array, that many number of iterations it will take. Okay. So you can see here I have taken 4 iterations because there are 5 values in the array. So to get the complete answer, you require n-1 iterations. Okay. If there are n values, you require n-1 iterations. There's one optimization possible in this bubble sort, but that maybe I will tell you about it later. Okay. So when you optimize it, then you don't require n-1 iterations. But first we'll just understand this method, then we'll talk about that. So when you start with this, within each iteration, okay, you're going to have inner iteration. So within each iteration, like I showed you here, this big thing, you're going to have 4 steps or 4 iterations. Within each step, again there are going to be n-1 steps. Okay. So in the first step, again there will be 4 sub steps. So that's why I have to make the differentiation. I have written this. These are the main steps. Outer loop is the main steps, and the sub steps I have written as inner loops. Okay. So basically you start by comparing the first 2 elements. Okay. So since we want in ascending order, I'm comparing whether this first element, that is 14, is less than 33. If 14 is less than 33, I do not make any change. But suppose I had here say I have here 45. Okay. When I do this comparison, I see that 45 is greater than 33. So then what I would have done, I would have shifted both these values. So I would have made 33 come here and 45 go here. Okay. If the values were like that, because I want my array in ascending order. But now in this case, our values are already in proper order. 14 is less than 33, so I do not make any change. Okay. I go to the next sub step. So in the next sub step, I compare 33 with 27. So I compare these 2 elements now. So it is shown here. Okay. 33 with 27. When I compare 33 with 27, you can see that 33 is greater than 27. So I swap these elements. 27 comes here in place of 33 and 33 goes to the place of 27. So I just exchange these values like it is shown here. Okay. I've just shown this here so that you should understand properly. Basically, I've copied 27 here. Okay. 27 is copied here and 33 is copied here. It's the same array. Rest of the values you just copy as it is. That does not change. Okay. So this is your second sub step. We are in the first main step and now we are in the second sub step. So you continue like that. Next step, we're going to compare now this value, third value with the fourth value. Okay. First step we had compared first and second value. The second step we had compared second and third value. The third step we compare third and the fourth value. So when you compare, you see that 33 and 35 are in the proper order. Nothing happens here. Okay. Go to the last step. So in the last step, fourth step, we compare 35 with 10. When you compare 35 with 10, you see that 35 is greater than 10. So you will exchange these values. Swap these values with each other's position. 10 will come in the place of 35 and 35 will go in the place of 10, like I've shown it here. Okay. So at the end of the first main step, I get this. Whatever I got here, I've copied it here. Okay. So you can see here why we call it as bubble sort. We call it as bubble sort because the largest value in your original array, 35, has reached its proper sorted position. 35 has reached its proper sorted position. Okay. It has bubbled to its proper sorted position. Therefore, this name of this sorting is bubble sort. In the next step, this step, what should come in the which place? Can you tell me before we do it? Now in this first step, 35 has come in the proper place. In the next step, which is the second largest element? Second largest element is 33. So in the final output, where should 33 be there? 33 should be there in this index here, fourth index. So in your second step, 33 will come here. Okay. So we'll see how that is done. But before that, have you all understood this first iteration? Is it okay? Yes, Siddesh, I have already mentioned about this. You can either take the input as sorted or you can implement a sorting algorithm and then do binary search. Okay. So for binary search, you can directly take input as sorted array. That is also fine. So the first iteration of bubble sort, everyone is got. So second iteration. Okay. Now I'm not showing you in all the details. I'm doing it here only. So take the output of the first iteration as the input for the first iteration of the second step. So you start from here. Okay. The same values you have copied here. Then you compare 14 with 27. They are in proper order. So you can't do anything. Leave it as it is. Compare now 27 with 33. So you compare 27 with 33. Again, it is in proper order. So go to the next step. Compare 33 with 10. When you compare 33 with 10, now it's not in proper order. So what I will do? Exchange these values. So 10 will come. I've shown it in this step here, the exchange. Okay. So 10 will come in the place of 33 and 33 will come in the place of 10. You can just see here, this is one step only. Okay. Both these lines are one step. Okay. Once I've done the exchange, I come to the fourth step and I exchange and compare 33 with 35. So when I compare this, again there is no change. And like I told you before we started comparing, the second largest element would have bubbled to its proper position. Now these two elements, 33 and 35, are in its proper position in your final output. Okay. Now in the third step, what should happen? 27, which is the third largest value, should come to the third position in your array. So can you do it in your notebooks? Do it like this. Do it like this. Do your third iteration and see that 27 comes to the third position. So for your third iteration, you're going to take this as the input. Are you getting it, students? Well done. Okay, this is the answer you should be getting. So in the first step, you compare 14 with 27. Okay. So when you compare, there's no change. 14 and 14 is already less than 27, so no change. Second step, compare 27 with 10. 27 is greater than 10, so swap the values. 10 will come before 27. Okay. Then the next step, compare 27 with 33. No change. And last step, compare 33 with 35. So again, there is no change. So this will be the output of your third step. Is it okay? Everyone is getting this? Are you getting it? So if you are getting it, go to the fourth step. I'm not finding any response in the chat. Are you doing it? Getting the answer? Okay, yesterday you all had asked for question papers, so I will ask the librarian for past question papers, okay? And data structures, remember that you all are the first batch of your syllabus. You all exactly won't find your syllabus question papers, but the old syllabus question papers you will find. So I'll share them with you. Go through them. You can go through them, okay? Yes, second IT paper will be not so difficult. It will be a easier paper, but you need to study. So do the fourth step. When you do the fourth step, you will get it something like this. So in the exams, I would expect you all to do like this. Okay, so because there's no much time for you all, and this will be some 8-mark problem coming for you, and you may not get just 5 numbers, you may get many numbers, and you have to show bubble sort, and it will take time for you, so you have to be quick. So do you all understand this fourth step? Does anyone want me to explain it? Fourth step is fine. Okay, as you all are solving this, have you all been noticing anything where we can optimize bubble sort? Okay, at the beginning of this problem, I told you that we can optimize this bubble sort. So have you all been noticing anything as you all been solving the third step or the fourth step? Are there any comparisons that we are doing which are not necessary? Who do we avoid those comparisons? Yeah, Carson, can you elaborate where you're finding which swap?
So when the element is swapped, say
Can you tell
first
me which iteration, because I've kept this open for you to help you. Iteration 2, 3, where?
even iteration 2, no, when
Where?
33 and 10 are swapped,
Okay.
why do we
Then
have to compare 10 and 35? We are not swapping there.
we are not comparing 10 and 35,
No, no,
Carson.
no. After 33 and 35.
33 and 35. Okay, correct. 33 and 35. Okay. Here in this iteration, Carson,
Uh,
what's the waste of comparison? Which elements we are
27,
wasting?
33, 33, 35.
Here, basically
Yeah.
this we are wasting by comparison, we are wasting our effort. So basically what happens is, you can program this now when you have learned. Now these are this, you need 2 for loops. Okay, if you have understood this, you need 1 for loop to control this outer steps, the main steps. Okay, that's why I have written it also like that to understand for you. You need 1 for loop to control this, the outer loops, and you need another for loop for this. Okay, when you're doing the programming. So when you're doing the programming, this loop you can see here, this is getting repeated. This is already, like I told you, at the end of this iteration, 35 has reached its proper position. End of second iteration, 33 is in its proper position. So once these are in the proper position, we don't need to keep comparing this 33 and 35 again and again, because we know they are in the proper place. Okay, so if this could be avoided, then it would become more efficient. Okay, similarly, as you go everywhere uh, to the below iterations, you'll find out that there are some comparisons that are not needed, so we need to make it more efficient. You can check out that. Okay, how to make it more efficient. First, you try to program this as a normal bubble sort, where you're going to swap these values and you're going to have 2 for loops, nested for loops, and how you're going to program this part. Okay, and once you have done this, take the same example and do the program. Once you have done this successfully, then you can try to make it more efficient. Okay, so for exams you can write any one program unless they tell you to write by making it more efficient. Okay, so that is what has everyone understood why we where it needs to be made more efficient, bubble sort? What Carson has been trying to say, and the others also. Has everyone understood which is the part that is not needed to keep comparing in all the loops that we are doing? You won't be able to make it efficient if last element was a smaller number. No, Steven. Always in the first step now, in the first step, in this first step that we do, this first step, okay. Here you can see already this 10 was the smallest number. Okay, 10 was the smallest number in our original array. So when we do this first step, we always get the largest value of the array. Largest value, it could be anywhere. 35 could have been present here. Okay, my largest value at the end of this first iteration will reach the end. It will reach the end. Okay, you can change these values and try this. You can change this. You can take 35 here and take any values that you want. Just take something and try. Okay, put here 1, put here whatever values you want, put and see. When you do the swapping, okay, you can try, you can take this array. When you do the swap, add these 4 steps. These 4 steps will reach the end, will reach here. It has to. Okay, if you are applying the bubble sort logic correctly, 35 will reach at the end. Then in the second iteration, 20 will reach the second last place, because 20 is the second biggest value, and so on. So this logic will always be the same for any set of values. Okay, or you can try, and if you still can't, if you still have that doubt, then we can see later in the next classes. Okay. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, students, so I think we'll stop the class. So on Friday, I'll continue with the sorting techniques. On Saturday also, what I plan to do is, instead of giving you a practical on Saturday, I'll give you a